Thank you. Not well-deserved introduction, but I really, really appreciate it. The one thing Noah forgot to say is I am, in fact, single, so if you have Jewish granddaughters, just find me at the end. It's the real reason I do this. I'm going to say something that no speaker in the 40-year history of the Republican-Jewish coalition has ever said, which is I will keep my remarks short. That was a good joke. I'll say a second joke, which is I'm probably the only speaker in the 40-year Republican-Jewish coalition history to say that I voted for Bernie Sanders twice. I marched for Black Lives Matter. I marched at the Supreme Court when Roe v. Wade was overturned. I was a far leftist. So take it from me. I have some degree of credibility when I tell you that the Republican Party must ensure, you as conservatives must ensure that you do not give a single inch of your party to the crazies and the radicals within your base. You must defeat them, because what happens when you don't defeat them is you turn into the Democratic Party. So look, when I spoke here last year, again, as a registered Democrat, I decided to endorse President Trump as president, and since then, the promises that President Trump made on the campaign trail have become promises kept from the White House. I'm very proud to say that in literally less than 1 year, President Trump has cut billions of dollars in federal funding from anti-American universities like Harvard and Columbia and UCLA. President Trump has lawfully detained and legally deported foreign students who have violated American law in direct violation of their own student visa. President Trump has cracked down on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on public universities. President Trump has taxed elitist university endowments to the highest level in American history. President Trump has established the Religious Liberties Commission, and it has just been barely 10 months. And as an activist on the front lines against campus indoctrination, I want to say something as explicitly and as clearly as I can, that any American student, Christian or Jew, who faces religious discrimination in the United States, they finally, for the first time in 5 years, have an ally in the White House, and that ally's name is President Donald J. Trump. But while there is much to celebrate, and I do mean that, there is much to celebrate, especially here at the RJC. You've been instrumental in ensuring these successes. To ensure the capitalization of these profound legislative and political successes, we must admit a very uncomfortable truth. I first met Charlie Kirk when I was backstage at the 2024 Republican Convention, and I confided into Charlie my anxieties about speaking before President Trump and the 40,000 people in the arena. And calmly and somewhat unexpectedly, Charlie put his arms on my shoulders, and he said, "Shabbos, so long as you tell the truth, you have nothing to be afraid of. So long as you tell the truth, you have nothing to be afraid of." As you can imagine, those words have really rung at the forefront of my mind these last few months. So let me state the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. A few months before Charlie's assassination, Charlie was asked about inviting a noted anti-Semite who is not worth to say his name, but he was asked about inviting this individual to partake at a Turning Point USA conference. Charlie's response was as succinct as it was consistent, and I want to quote directly. He said, "I don't align with Jew haters. I'm not going to put up with Jew hatred in the conservative movement, in the Republican Party, or anywhere in America." How shocked and how embarrassed and how appalled would Charlie be today to know that not even 2 months after his murder, nefarious actors within our own party would use his brutal assassination to advance their explicitly anti-American agenda and tarnish everything that Charlie worked so hard to fight against. I knew Charlie Kirk, and I was friends with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a mentor. Charlie Kirk was someone who taught me and millions of Gen Z American men the importance of worshiping our Lord, the importance of marrying a woman and raising a family, the importance of fighting for America and speaking out against jihadism and communism and conspiratorial elements. And I have a message for Tucker Carlson and all those who seek to tarnish the legacy of Charlie Kirk. You are no Charlie Kirk, and you never will be. The intellectual backbone of the conservative movement is only as strong as the principles it advances. As such, when someone uses their platform, forget about anti-Semitism and forget about Israel, when someone uses their platform to promote Sharia law and defend the Taliban, to whitewash the persecution and the genocide of Christians in Nigeria, to attack the Hindu faith of our Second Lady, to defend the thug of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to sympathize with the communist dictator, Nicolas Maduro, to actually interview and fawn over internet personalities charged with rape and human trafficking, then you are no conservative, you are a coward. And let me be clear to the supposed leadership who might be confused on this issue. Refusing to engage refusing to engage with those who believe that we should imprison all blacks, refusing to engage with people who believe that we should rape women whom we disagree with politically, refusing to engage with people who believe that we should kill Republican state legislators. That does not mean that we engage in cancel culture. It means we engage in common sense. We are an inclusive movement. We accept all peoples, but what we do not do and what we cannot do is accept all ideas. And that brings me to the crux of my argument. Jew haters do not build, Jew haters blame. The far right has adopted the tactic of the far left, blaming their inability to maintain relationships or get married, blame their lack of professional success, blame their limited social skills on mysterious, undefined forces, the system, the billionaires, the Jew, Israel. This is not a conservative argument of personal responsibility or equality of opportunity. This is the victimhood mentality that Charlie Kirk fought and died hard against to fight. And I come with an urgent warning. The Democratic Party, my party, the party that I registered to vote as the day I turned 18, they have lost the last election, and they will continue to lose elections because they acquiesced, they placated, and they surrendered to the most radical, the most extreme, the most anti-Semitic elements of their party. And if Democrats want to win elections in the future, which I'm actually not convinced they do, then they must finally have the moral and political courage to expel the extremists in their base. And Republicans, I am telling you, as someone who is new to this movement, we cannot go down that road. We cannot go down that road. We must be clear-sighted that there is a cancer in our midst. And as conservatives, we do not engage with cancer. We do not invite cancer to our conferences. We do not invite cancer on our podcasts. Those who deny American exceptionalism, those who scorn our Judeo-Christian values, those who peddle dangerous conspiratorial thinking, they must have no place in the Republican Party, and they must have no place in the conservative movement. We cannot make any exceptions whatsoever. And please, I am begging you, do not make the mistake of my former party. We must expel that cancer in our movement before it is too late. Do not give the radicals, do not give the extremists, do not give the conspiratorial theorists 1 inch of our party. Do not give them 1 inch of our movement. We are a party and we are a movement of Thomas Sowell, of William Buckley, of Dennis Prager, of Charlie Kirk, of Abraham Lincoln, of Ronald Reagan, of Donald Trump. And we cannot surrender that legacy to the lowest common denominators who shout loud noises on Twitter. And I am proud to be joining you to ensure that we advance the interests of the United States, that we advance the interest of American values, and we advance the interest of America's allies, because America is strong when our allies are strong. And so I urge you, as we close this incredible conference, and as we take our marching orders from Matt Brooks and the leadership of the RJC, in the words of our President Donald J. Trump, fight, fight, fight. Thank you. Okay, I'm told I'm doing a Q&A. Sorry, I didn't mean to walk off. Happy to take any and all questions, comments, concerns, or shidduch resumes. Yes? Yeah. Oh, well, oh, sorry, we're doing it with the mic, sorry. The mic's not on.
Check 1, 2.
Hi, thank you so much, first of all, for your very strong remarks and everything that you've done for our movement. And we're so happy to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Truly.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing. But I wanted to ask you about the nuance of whether it's J.D. Vance saying it or Joel Pollak was referring to, that this is a Christian country, and how that you, when you're hearing people that, well, J.D. Vance said it a number of times.
Sure. So I'm smart enough to know that you don't disagree with Joel Pollak. So let me just say that first and foremost. I will say this. When I was at Charlie's vigil in Arizona, I had posted on my Twitter, and this actually was the most viral tweet I'd ever posted, which is, I'm obviously Jewish. I don't know what gave that away, the fact that I wear a kippah or my name is Shabbos Kestenbaum. But I had said that America would be a much better country if more Christians went to church. America would be a much better country if Christians Christians learnt and lived by the New Testament. I fundamentally believe that. We are a Christian nation in the sense of the Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament have been a cornerstone of our country. And that is when I have no problems with someone like J.D. Vance saying a few days ago that he actually wishes his wife, Usha Vance, would convert to Christianity, because if you believe that is the truth, then you have an obligation to spread the truth. Just like we as Jews believe in a moral principle and a moral code, we have an obligation to advance that moral code as well. And I'll close by saying one last thing. I once spoke at a Trump rally, and I gotta say, between us, someone who had a full scholarship to Harvard as a white middle-class Jew is not a very sympathetic character. So as I'm walking to the podium to speak at this Trump rally, it kind of occurs to me, what am I gonna tell them? What am I gonna speak about? And I opened my speech at the rally by saying, in 1790, President George Washington writes a letter to the largest Jewish community in the United States. It was in Newport, Rhode Island, and the synagogue, the Torah synagogue, is still in existence. And he tells the Jewish community that here in the United States, as a child of Abraham, we actually want you to come into this country and practice your religion, because in President Washington's own words, quote, bigotry will be granted no sanction and persecution no assistance. And just like Charlie would be appalled at how his legacy is being tarnished, how shocked and appalled would President Washington and President Madison and President Jefferson and all of our founding fathers be today to know that American students, American citizens, are being denied access to education because of their religious identity, which is why this is not a Jewy issue or an Israel issue exclusively. This is a uniquely American issue. This is a unique issue that strikes at the core of our Western civilization, our American values, and our liberal democracy. When you can have American students being discriminated against because of their Judeo-Christian values, that is abhorrent to what we stand for as a country. And this should not be controversial, but for whatever reason, it sometimes is. The best friends that the Jewish people have in the world today are Christians, bar none.
How you doing? First of all, great speech.
Oh, thanks.
I think the main question I have is, I've been following the Daily Wire, for example, since I was 16 years old. It's about 10 years now. And I'm noticing, I really looked at Ben Shapiro, for example, as a first Jewish Republican that I really liked following. And I'm getting concerned now that him and other Jewish thought leaders are kind of, I don't want to say becoming like cowardice, but aren't standing up for really Judaism and their values, even though they preach values every single day on their shows. For example, Ben Shapiro works with Matt Walsh. He employed Candace Owens, and he refuses to kind of call them out and acknowledge them, and he kind of lets this fester beneath him. So I'm guessing what I'm asking you is, what can we do, and how can we get these Jewish thought leaders to change their positions and actually to stand with their values? With the
Sure. So full disclosure, Ben is a friend. He's an intellectual role model, and the reason he can't speak about Candace Owens is for legal reasons. It's not because he doesn't have strong opinions on it. I mean, Ben literally has strong opinions on every single thing on planet Earth, so it's more of legal constraints. In terms of the general question of what can we do about public intellectuals or Jewish public intellectuals who perhaps might be kowtowing or acquiescing to some of the base, I can't speak on behalf of those people. What I can say is to me and to all of you in this room that I'm sort of preaching to the choir because we're all here at the Republican Jewish Coalition. We believe in conservative values. We believe that America first does not believe America alone. We believe that, as I said, America is strong when our allies, Taiwan, Ukraine, Israel, are supported. And just like Maimonides says, I think in Mishnah Torah, that we should accept the truth wherever it comes from, so too, if there is truth, if we know there to be biblical principles or political principles that are right for this society, right for this country, then we have an obligation to speak out and advance those causes. And I'll say on a personal level, I get attacked frequently from the far left and I actually get death threats weekly from the far left and the far right. I'm very bipartisan. Both sides want to kill me. And the far right, of course, they don't think I'm white because they think I'm Jewish. And the far left, they think I'm only white. I've been called a white supremacist numerous times. And the reality is I'm not particularly bothered in how the intellectually challenged morons of our political culture view me or view our movement. I care about advancing truths that we know will help our country. America will be a much stronger country, to answer your question earlier. America will be a much better country when people, Jews and Christians alike, talk about their religion openly and try to instill biblical values on our country. America will be a much better country if we totally abhorred socialism and communism and instead quickly advocated for free market capitalism. And unfortunately, my generation, I'm young, 25. Not that you guys aren't young, you're young at heart, I'm young biologically. And Sorry, that was too far. And I can tell you that young people have been fed a diet of lies. They have been fed through political indoctrination on their campuses that America is a flawed country. America is a racist country. America, spelt Amerikakka, is something we must tarnish and start over. And I think that is horrendously wrong. That is a poison we're teaching our young people, and all of us have an obligation to talk about why it is that America is the best country on planet Earth, bar none.
By 10 a.m., we have time for one more question.
Hi, Maytal Nelson. Thank you so much. My question for you today is, how do we cut off this cancer in a society that cares more about clicks than they do about the truth, about what's actually happening? They care more about the clickbait that's on Instagram, that's on TikTok, more than they do about what's actually going on in real time.
Wow, I'll put it this way. If I knew the answer, then I would be doing it. The short answer is I don't know. The longer answer is just before this speech, I had a debate with Jackson Hinkle, who hopefully you haven't heard of. But if you have, the last debate I had with him, I said that he had the intellectual capabilities of a folding chair. And when I had the debate again this morning, I said, Jackson, before we begin the debate, I want to apologize. I should not have said that you have the intellectual capabilities of a folding chair. I did not mean any disrespect to folding chairs. The reason I say that is because Jackson Hinkle is a perfect embodiment of everything wrong with our American political culture, where it's really not about the quality of your ideas, but it's simply about your follower count. It's simply about how many clicks or engagement or likes you can get on a post or whatever, and that is the dumbing down of our society. That's really, really dangerous. So I would encourage those, obviously in the Jewish community, but really in American society, advocate and advance and promote people based on the quality of their ideas, based on their ability to articulate values in accordance with Western civilization. And we have to move away from putting people on a pedestal, not because they have intellectual abilities, not because they're fighting for the right cause, but simply because they generate this, likes and shares or whatever it may be. And that's very hard. I don't know, as I said, I don't know the practicalities of doing that. What I will say is, especially as young people in the room and the college students, I'm going to butcher and paraphrase a line from MLK, which is, in the 21st centuries, it matters not the, you should be judged based on the quality of your argument and not the diploma or degree that you have. Labels and degrees and where you work and where you went to college, it's so insignificant. What matters is that you are in this existential fight for the future of Western civilization. You're in this existential fight for the Jewish people. And communities, organizations, and RJC obviously does a very good job at this, they advocate and they advance young people. They say you are not tomorrow's leaders, you are today's leaders. And we want to give you the tools so you can advance all the things that we care about. So I think the Jewish community and the American people would be a lot better serviced if there were more organizations like the Republican Jewish Coalition who take very seriously the role that young people have in advancing American democracy. Okay, thank you very much.